All right, so we are live again, and so first time doing a somewhat of a back-to-back, but this RTD news update was kind of planned, and so the prior live stream was something that I thought I wanted to share, and so I was happy to have Lawrence join us. So we're back, and so excited to have another individual join me, Mr. Half Dollar, and I'm not going to use the word my better half. I'll say my other commentating half, Mr. Half Dollar. How you doing, my friend?
Doing good today, Mike. It's it's good. It's like a Thursday double header, so we're doing even better than the mainstream is. That's for sure.
Oh my goodness, trying to bring some an alternative spin as to into what's going on, and so just to make sure, let me check if you chat. Let me know if the audio is doing well because I am attempting to use a different computer. So, and as I was streaming with the other one, I noticed that my background was starting to blur a little bit. And so I wanted to switch it up a little bit and put another good computer to use. So we're live and we are good to go. So for those that are tuning in, let us know where you're watching from briefly, and then we'll dive in. And so
yes, and we are not gay. We have beautiful wives, and we're not married. I don't know how this gets so blown out of proportion. That's kind of funny, though.
So, apart from, I think it was just one or two people referencing that, you might not want to use that term. Like, okay, I never really thought about that. So I'm trying to navigate this mouse here, and I'm having issues. So let me try here. So there we go. So remember people on the part. Okay.
But so it's funny. It's funny. It's fun to joke. I mean, it's good.
Yeah, it is. It is. And so I don't mind completely. So it's all good. So I'm trying to navigate a little bit here to get some comments on the screen, but my mouse is not cooperating. But we're going to make it. We're going to try to do our best. So no longer married, Mike and Paul. Crypto girl from Connecticut just got in. Okay, so a couple people are James here. We got Nathaniel. And so, okay, so let's dive right in. So couple subject matter we want to touch on, and then also open it up to get your guys' thoughts and opinions as to what you might be keeping an eye on via the audience. So feel free to let us know in the chat, and we'll touch on it. And so, Mr. Half Dollar, the digitization of payments. And so if I can pull that article up here, due to my mouse, I might be able to show people what we're talking about. But yeah, you felt there was a good subject matter to touch on today, so I want to definitely do that. So go ahead and share some of your thoughts, and then as I open this up, we can try to get it working.
And can I put that in the chat, or is that not possible?
So I think I'm not sure what you got on your end. You might be able to add to the chat, but other than just the articles you sent me, I'll put them up on the screen once I get control of this mouse.
Okay, because I was wondering, because it's like I can see the chat, but I can't participate in the chat. I can only participate in the private, which is interesting. Yeah. But anyway, so moving on. So it's funny because with everything that's going on, Mike, quietly the Fed's working behind the scenes, and what you like to call it is I think you call it, they're going to take us digital. Isn't that like the phrase that you use? They're taking us digital. That's exactly what they're doing. They're taking us digital. So Leo Brainerd, right? Brainerd's one of the Fed governors, and I can't remember which Fed branch she's the governor of, but she's one of the Fed governors. And she gave a speech at Stanford University yesterday in California. Yeah. So I sent you the text of the speech. Yeah. And there's three basic points that I want to make, right? Basically, what the Fed is talking about is, hey, this isn't the point. This is just the background, right? Basically, the Fed is saying, hey, we're on it. Digitalization, cryptocurrency, we're on it. There's nothing to worry about it. We got everything under control, right? So digitalization of payments and currency. So there's 3 points that I want to talk about. First of all, there's this huge push to say, so I'll say each of my points and get what your response to those points are. But they're talking about Fed Now, right? So they've created like this task force in the Fed called Fed Now to modernize this process. So that's kind of scary in and of its own. But they're saying, this will enable consumers and businesses to settle retail transactions in real time. Mike, I'm a consumer and I settle transactions in real time every single day, right? I go to the gas station and they automatically settle that real time transaction and zap my money when I fill up my car with premium, right? When I'm getting something out of the ATM, when I'm buying something at, the grocery store, right? As a consumer, and arguably in some business situations, it's already real time. So, that's kind of point one. And then point number two, because the common comeback to that would be, well, we got to think about international here. So international is real time. And I revert back to the example that I give where, I still have family in Mexico and I like to send a Christmas gift or a birthday gift every once in a while. And I can do that anytime in real time, any day of the week, right? And I can send it, I can send some money and it gets converted into the foreign currency and it's in the recipient's account of choice, whether it goes to like Walmart where they pick it up or whether it's directly deposited into the bank account or whatever, in 1 hour for an international foreign exchange transaction. So this whole real-time thing, that's just like, to me, it's a sham. Do you have any thoughts about that?
Yeah. So as you're mentioning that, I was thumbing through some of the article here and it's quite lengthy. So I'll actually put in the chat if I can, but I'm looking at some of this. And it mentions Bitcoin, it mentions stable coins. And so if this is the transcript from the speech that was given, this is a quite lengthy. So this was a very well thought out, well prepared segment that was given. But it says, in contrast, cryptocurrencies introduce separate units of account built using distributed ledger technology. So it looks like just scanning through this, they're setting up the transformation into this digital economy and they want to be a part of it. They don't want to be left behind. And so she mentions Facebook and stuff like this. And so then it gets into central bank digital currencies. And so my thought process all along was that was the ultimate goal. The ultimate goal is to take us to a solely digital economy by removing paper. And so having a chance to talk to Lawrence Lepard a moment ago, he was saying how basically QE is inevitable. Like it's no doubt that this quantitative easing will cause hyperinflation. And the last thing they'll need is probably the expansion of their paper base. And so I can see them rolling out some type of digital issuance, which will make quantitative easing a lot more acceptable because it'll be solely digital and it won't be obvious outright hyperinflation with paper flowing in the streets and paper just flowing everywhere if they began printing. So I'm of the mindset that this is a part of the original plan. Now, the timing might be thrown off a little bit because I don't think they foresaw the need to really roll out a central bank digital currency so soon, or I could be wrong. I don't know. But so I'm not surprised.
Yeah. Okay. So now the second point I want to bring up, and I guess it's a question, and this is going to stoke a lot of controversy, but does this spell the end of Bitcoin? I kind of pretty much think that it does, in fact, spell the end of Bitcoin.
So we got lots so we got Bitcoin people in the audience. So
I know we do. I'd like for them to call in because I'd love to talk about this, Mike.
Lay out your case.
Okay. So, well, I don't know if you can get back into that article or not, but hit Control F and then type in the word generation, because there's a great sentence there. And then and actually, I think I quoted it in this paper that I have in my hand. So I'm just going to read it.
So you say control, what was that?
Oh, yeah. Search the word generation.
So we
can get to it here.
Generation.
And then you'll see, okay, so there we go. So I'm going to read that sentence. And then what it says is, let me see here. And I don't have
stable coins. Talk about that one. Okay.
Yes. So, stable coins were designed specifically to overcome the volatility of first generation cryptocurrencies by tying the digital currency to an asset or basket of assets, such as commercial bank deposits or government issued bonds. Now, what is that telling you? Right before that, they were talking about Bitcoin. So what they're saying is Bitcoin's first gen, Mike. Bitcoin's first gen. Bitcoin's has been. It's obsolete. We're already on second gen with stable coins. So by the time the Fed coin rolls out, that's at least third gen. So I have a question for you, Mike.
Go ahead.
Is anybody investing in 56K modems for dial-up modem internet anymore?
No.
That's first gen internet, Mike. Right. Now, it's Ethernet, right? I mean, that's even got that little teeny tiny plug, right? It's a RJ11 jack. Ethernet ports RJ45 jack. But now it's beyond that. And it's like Wi-Fi laser and it's also fiber optics, right? So we're way past the first gen dial-up internet. And Bitcoin is the first gen dial-up internet. The Fed is telling you right here, this is not good news for anybody who thinks this is good news for Bitcoin. This is not good news for Bitcoin at all.
No.
Secondly, hold on, one more point. Look at what they say here, right? So they're praising stable coins a little bit. and they're dissing Bitcoin, but even their praise of stablecoins is just horrible because it says stablecoins were designed specifically to overcome blah, 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 by tying the digital currency to a basket of assets such as bank deposits or government issued bonds. Those aren't assets. Those are just unbacked debt-based fiat currency, instruments that are traded or supposedly there. That's not a backed. Stablecoins are not backed by assets if they're backed by government bonds or bank deposits. I mean, that's just like backing it with unbacked debt-based fiat in a sense. So, so thoughts on that, Mike?
So, okay. So, when it comes to so Bitcoin being the first gen, according to what is being referenced by the Federal Reserve. Now, I can see some people are saying that. So, Chris just mentioned stable coins do not equal Bitcoin or even the blockchain. And so, if the Federal Reserve is a part of the introduction or rollout, or they allowed this 10-year bull market in the Bitcoin going from 10 cents up to 20 to back down to like 9, touching on 10. And so if they were a part of allowing it to become a mainstream topic, then that would imply that they also have a way of stopping it. Yes. Because at this current point, it's decentralized, it's all around the world. It's not on one server and all that stuff like that. So there'll be a lot of people saying that Bitcoin can't be stopped. And so we will find out whether or not there's a glitch, a hiccup, or some type of quantum computing type of disruption of the blockchain, or if Bitcoin continues to rally, because as of right now, it's still looked at as a financial asset that even the financial institutions want to participate in. Mm-hmm. So we got backed, you got all those big players now getting involved. I wouldn't be so quick to say that it's a setup directly with Bitcoin, because if there was some type of hiccup, then all those institutions, all those big players that's getting involved would stand to lose trillions, or not trillions, but billions, because the market cap is less than 300 billion. But there'll be a lot of people willing to lose a lot of money if the Federal Reserve or central banks was behind it. So I'm not 100% sold that that's the case, but I do believe Bitcoin is a generation 1 of what might be rolled out. But we'll see.
Yeah.
Because
And, when we talk about quantum computing, and that can crack because Bitcoin's only got 256-bit encryption. That's point number 1. Point number 2 is they can stop the Bitcoin network, right? They like to talk about Bitcoin as being decentralized, but it's central in nature because it has to be authenticated by Bitcoin nodes. It's just the nodes that are decentralized, but the nodes can be targeted individually too. They can shut down Bitcoin in a moment's notice if they want to. And then here, the other thing is, well, you don't get it because all of this hardware has been built up and all this infrastructure has been built up. So they're not just going to let that go. Mike, all that hardware can just be switched and repurposed for something else, right? So this is not good news for anybody who is holding Bitcoin. And here's the thing, right? It's not even going to become a novelty. So if you be like, I got a flash drive with 1,000 Bitcoin, well, that's not the same thing as $100 trillion Zimbabwe note. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Now watch this. So as of right now, if all central banks begin, I'm trying to track this. If all central banks are trying to basically restore and protect their own currencies, then that lets me know that anything that's not easily brought into existence, i.e. Federal Reserve notes and central bank paper notes, digital creation of just ledgers on a keyboard, whereas in Bitcoin and all the other coins still have a viable use case in the interim that everyone's looking to escape the old monetary system to the new. So price-wise, I see Bitcoin and everything else associated with that technology, because it is a escape route out of an old system, it rallying. So I can see Bitcoin going to 20, 30, 40, 50,000 because it's being labeled as an alternative as well as metals. Even though metals is tangible, Bitcoin, Litecoin is ledgers, whatever. But I think as an alternative, they're still going to go up in the short term. So having some crumbs in that particular sector, you're going to definitely do better than holding your dollars in the bank. You know what I'm saying?
Possibly. I mean, I look at it as pure speculation and nothing else because, people are like, well, people think I don't understand the technology. I understand the technology, right? I've been through technological school several times, right? I got several certifications and degrees in technology, cybersecurity, hardware, all of this stuff. I understand the tech behind it. I'm not a coder, but I understand the tech, right? Yeah. But here's the thing. And I lost my point that I was going to make about that, as usual, right?
It was about cryptocurrencies being a outlet out of a dying system and them doing well regardless. Now, the long-term aspect Who knows? Because there's going to be some rollout of a centrally controlled coin, and I'd imagine the government doesn't want competition, so they're going to propose some regulation or laws that will make it very unpleasant for people to participate in that industry. But in the short term, if gold rally this year, I see Bitcoin, Litecoin as the two leading cryptocurrencies that we're aware of, probably outpacing gold and silver, because it's one of the things where the markets don't close. It's all that the beneficial stuff, and then gold and silver following. Because I would imagine the powers that be would want Bitcoin, Litecoin to take off before the gold and silver, because gold and silver is an actual
that's why
broke loose.
That's why they let it run. You know, people talk about, here's the thing. Bitcoin is not money. I don't know if you think that Bitcoin is money or not.
But no, I think it's not money, but I think it is a currency that can be used. So it can be transferred between me and you. If I want to pay for a service, I can send it to you extremely quickly, and you'll be satisfied to either transfer it or you might want to sit on it. So it is a currency in a sense.
It is a currency in a sense, although it's kind of like, it costs to transact, and it's not a currency in a sense that if you have a gold coin, you don't need additional internet connections at multiple points to do that transaction, right? It's just a gold coin. It's already been produced. Yeah. So just in and of itself, there's no real utility in Bitcoin. Trust the math. Well, I don't want to know 20,000 digits after whatever follows pi, right? So I don't need to worry about that. But gold and silver, that actually has utility. But we don't have to get into a big.
So that's the thing. Like, that's where I'm open. I'm not against her, so I'm just like, I like to just bring different perspectives here. So
because here's the thing, and here's my third and final point about this, right? So she says, this is fresh attention to age-old questions. Mike, it's not fresh attention to age-old questions, right? It's like, we need something round that rolls, right? It's called a wheel. We don't need to reinvent the wheel. This age-old question has been answered and settled thousands of years ago. Gold and silver money. That's it. That's what is money. So
I agree. I agree 100%. And that's why, RTD, Rethinking the Dollar, the origins of it has to do with metals. And that's going to always be the case until I'm proven wrong, or until, the alchemists come out with a new form of gold and silver that is no longer needed. And as a way of getting more weight, I do like to speculate in something that I believe will do very well, because everything over. So cryptocurrency at this current moment, it has to do well, because everything is priced in. It's going to be a damn liability. It's going to be a head case. For example, Zimbabwe right now, talking to people in Zimbabwe, Bitcoin is sought after as well as dollars if they can find them. But it's easier for them to get digits on their phone via Bitcoin than actual physical paper, even though that's going to be worth nothing to us. Gold and silver is plentiful there, but not for the people directly. So,
except the only issue I have with that is, when you talk to people, you're talking with people that are savvy and that are technologically savvy and that actually have some money to have some Bitcoin, right? But like, just your average Zimbabwean, they don't have money to transact in Bitcoin as a currency. I don't think so. I would argue that.
But see, watch this. Another thing is that they have a digital currency on their phone where they actually transfer phone minutes. So like in a prepaid phone environment, which I think Zimbabwe, a portion of the population is, they top up with like $5 Bolivar, $5. And that $5 can be transferred to you. So I can send you 50 cents of my minutes on my phone. So that's their digital currency.
Yes.
Outside of those, they can actually afford something else. So
yes, most places in the world are prepaid on a cellular plan. The U.S. is just now moving to it finally, like Mexico is, I know for a fact. So yes, so exactly. And when you send minutes to somebody, there's no transaction fee for sending minutes like there is with Bitcoin.
Yeah.
But anyway, my overall point of this is this, right? With so much stuff that's going on, Fed's behind the scenes, and they're getting ready for something here with this push us digital that you talk about.
Yeah. So,
and this is not good news for Bitcoin. You cannot spin this at all as good news for Bitcoin.
Yeah, I would agree. And so outside the fact that it's going to be interesting to see how they look to stop the cryptocurrency adoption, because that movement will continue, because until it's proven to be a false hope, people are still going to encourage other individuals to get involved with that sector. And so I personally never tell people to do it. I'm saying get physical. Physical is your best way of hedging everything. But then on a speculative note, I believe that, as things rally, I'll be able to take advantage of the rally as well and get more physical. So it's like, okay, I'm basically betting on trying to get more physical in the form of metals as the digital stuff pumps.
Yeah, but we've rallied from 6,000 to 10,000. You think we want to shoot up to 20? I don't know, Mike. I don't
think like this. I think at this current moment, it's more of I wouldn't say mathematical certainty, but the probability in my estimations is that Bitcoin will surpass 20,000, especially if the repo madness continues. Because think about it, it's predominantly denominated in Federal Reserve notes. And so everything is going to increase because of inflation, borderline hyperinflation. And so it's going to be a matter of paper not being worth much, but everything denominated in that paper will appreciate in nominal value. Mm-hmm. Now, what can you do with it? How can you move it? Those things are still been ironed out. But just as high as gold is going to go, I believe Bitcoin will as well, because a good portion of the younger population look at Bitcoin as digital gold still. So you got the people who know what tangible sound money is, which happen to be alternative media people. They realize the importance of metals, whereas in the younger crowd, the people who only know digitization on their phones, they're excited about the adoption for crypto. So they can be the ones that rally it up heavily with their nickels and dimes. So
they could
nickel and dime, and it's gonna go up.
They could. So anyway, it's interesting. I mean, people learn the hard way. They always do. And so, but anyway, Mike, so we need to talk about one of your favorite subjects.
All right, what you got?
That Zero Hedge article. Do you see that?
Oh, yeah. Let me pull it up. Okay. Let me grab it. Oh, man. No, you didn't. Okay. I see where you go with that one.
You see what I brought up there?
Yeah. Let me grab it on the screen. All right. But go ahead and touch on it.
Here's the takeaway. Okay. So the vote, which was undertaken. So they just voted on this. And it's funny because this is going to be implemented in 2022. So it's like, they don't want this implemented right now because, there would be pitchforks and torches in the streets probably. So they're like, we agreed upon this 2 years ago and everybody thought it was a great idea at the time. So don't get mad at us now. So it's always funny how bad stuff they postpone even though they announce it.
Yeah.
Here's the bad news, right? They're eliminating the group healthcare. And what are they doing? They're replacing it with a stipend that will defray costs for members who purchase plans on the state exchanges. Now, think about this, Mike. Think about this. So basically they're saying they just eliminated the healthcare. And all we're going to do is give you a little bit of cash to, subsidize whatever you purchase on your own. What did we talk about the price of health insurance rising in 2019?
Was it it was 20%, correct?
It was 20%. Yeah. Just health insurance.
Yeah.
What does the government say the CPI is? Like 2%. They're not going to benchmark this to the health insurance. They're not going to go down to the footnotes and say, oh, crap, we need to increase your stipend 20%. They're going to increase it 2%, Mike. Yeah. So this is like, my mother-in-law was a kindergarten teacher in Mexico, and they get a stipend. So here's how the stipends work, right? And this was a while ago, but you know what? She used to get a stipend for food as part of her retirement pension. Guess how much that stipend is? 200 pesos, $10 a month. What is that going to buy for food? Now, even though stuff is cheaper in Mexico, it's not that much cheaper in Mexico, right? Yeah. So
it's not a month's worth of allocation of anything cheaper.
No, it's $10. That's your stipend for food. So, it goes back to that point where, everybody's going to get paid, but what is it going to be able to buy? So this is just not good news at all. And, this is one of those ways where you say it all the time. Promises are going to be broken. Ohio just broke those promises. They just voted to broke those promises by a count of 9-2. So, the paradigm that we talk about, I'm just going to let you talk about this now.
Yeah. So it's one of them things where I can't say I'm tired of talking about it because it's going to be an ongoing situation that we're going to have to address one way or another. But I feel for those that are still sitting around saying that, no, this can never happen to me. This can't happen in the U.S. because I put in, so I'm entitled to. Even though you are entitled, that's a word that is going to be looked at very negatively pretty soon by the younger generation, because that entitlement comes at the cost of robbing Peter to pay Paul, which enslaves the younger generation a lot worse off than we are currently. So it's going to create a divide between the older population and the younger. If the younger generation has to wholly bear the burden of being taxed, because the only thing they can do is tax. You can either do the QE side to create fictitious numbers, which will be hyperinflationary, or you try to do the MMT with the taxation while increasing the money supply, which will put more of a burden on people because people are already tapped out and don't have much disposable income. So if right now, if all the signs and warnings aren't obvious on what you should be doing, that I can't, like a year or two from now, I can't really say, we all told you, every alternative media person says the same thing. The system is crumbling. What are you going to do about it? Mm-hmm. Don't expect no type of payouts. And if you do, they won't be able to purchase much. So,
yes. And think about the state of Ohio, right? The state of Ohio has 3 levels of income tax. They have the national income tax, which everybody pays, right? Mm-hmm. And then they have the state income tax, which Ohioans pay. And then in Ohio, they have local income taxes. You pay income tax at the local level in the state of Ohio. So the point is, how much tax can they keep extracting? You can only extract so much from a person before they just don't have any money.
Yeah.
So this is just, this is not good one way or another. And this just came out this morning. So,
and this is Ohio. So I'm probably going to do more like detailed work as far as showing graphs, statistics, and stats to really bring home the point of just the concept of retirement. It's going to become a bad word very soon, because we have a good portion of the population, maybe 1/3 of it, entering or looking to retire comfortably at a time where QE, quantitative easing, which is not official. And as Lawrence Lepar referenced, that the new toolkit they're going to use is to cap the interest rates, and just add QE on top of it. Mm-hmm. You're going to be stimulated out of your retirement, no matter what. So there's no way around it. Like, there's no amount of currency you can save that will save you from the increased cost of living, and while the currency is devalued, which is basically how it shows up. So,
yep.
Oh, man.
That's right. I mean, the only thing that can save you are real things, because that's the only thing that's a hedge against currency debasement are real things.
Yeah.
So,
very true.
That and then I also want to bring up the Wuhan coronavirus, because we kind of need to talk about that for just a second if you got time.
Let's touch on it. Let me grab the article. Go ahead.
Well, that was just an article that I wrote actually this morning on Silver Doctors, giving an update. You want me to send it to you? Let me see here.
If you didn't in the chat already.
Oh, there it is. And actually, we don't even need to really link to it. Well, there's just a couple interesting things to it. So there's been a 12th case, and the 12th case is confirmed in the state of Wisconsin. So now this is in the Midwest, because we've already got either 1 or 2 in Illinois.
Yeah.
But here's a couple things, right? And I titled this that the federal government is botching the response to the Wuhan coronavirus. And this is very important, because we've been talking about this since the 20th of January. And a lot of what we've been talking about is just the economic ramifications that are coming, especially as this develops more in China. But let's talk about some ramifications here for just a second. The Wisconsin Department of Public Health just confirmed its 12th case, right? Mm-hmm. But where do they get this tested from? They get this tested from the CDC. So that means the CDC knows that this person in Wisconsin has been confirmed to have the Wuhan coronavirus.
Yeah.
But it's not updated on the CDC's website. Why is that? Because they only update it every 2 days. So here's my point with that. The CDC is behind the curve. There's a lag. But the Health and Human Services called this, declared a national public health emergency and unlocked all of these funds. So why isn't a person updating it in real time while the case number is so small? And why aren't they working on setting up some scripts and some programming behind the scenes so that it updates automatically as it goes parabolic? So that's one question. Question 2 is, why are they so far behind the curve when even the Trump administration created a White House task force for this? Which brings me up to my second point. Yesterday, the Washington Post, and you got to take it at face value, right? But let's take it at face value. Yesterday, the Washington Post put out this reporting, and it was talking about senators are frustrated. And listen to this. This is the takeaway. Mm-hmm. State health officials had not been notified in advance that their airport would be one of 11 to receive quarantine U.S. citizens. So someone shows up at your house and they're like, hey, put these people in your basement, right? And keep them there for 2 weeks. They got this deadly virus, and just let them go after 2 weeks. It's like, no, that's not the way that there's a task force. This is a public health emergency, and you just got a plane rolling up and, hey, we got to come up with some sort of quarantine, like right now, get on it. This is not, this is not the way that they should be responding to this, because it's a hasty quarantine.
Yeah. Now watch this. So the way
it's very frustrating.
Yeah, it is. So the way you just described that brought back some memories of what I was talking about. I think we talked about this maybe a year ago, 2 years ago, definitely about the whole migration crisis we have below the border. And so the sanctuary states, and so people rolling in buses and being carted to all sections of the country and being dropped off. And so I remember, I'm not sure if this is true, but in Detroit, I remember seeing two bus loads of people speaking Spanish only getting out, and they stormed Walmart. I was going to Walmart too, and I had to hold up because it was a long line. Something like, where do these people come from? Like, no English being spoken, 2 big buses, people bombarding Walmart. I'm like, damn, is this? So they bringing people here as well. So the same people who are just willingly dropping people off for these quarantines, could they be the same people that was busing people in and just dropping them off? And so the migration issue didn't really turn out to be much because we're having issues with that, and it never really became the primary subject matter. And I don't think they accomplished their goal of flooding our country with 100,000 people like they wanted to, or they have.
I think they have.
So they have. And so what about the quarantine situation now? So that didn't cause a disruption in the markets, and with Trump's Making America Great campaign 2 years ago, perhaps this quarantine situation of pushing people into possibly infected people into the cities, especially major metropolitan areas, could be that way of like, okay, let's try this route now. We're going to try to get everybody sick and try to pump this whole fear narrative. We have to do this before the 2020 election at all costs.
Yeah, because the message is still there's nothing to worry about and we got it all under control. But you do not just drop off a plane load of people to go under quarantine without saying, hey, we're coming here with this.
Yeah.
To hit your point home, I have personally seen this because, about 30 miles northeast of El Paso, there are military training grounds. And, you can look all this stuff up on a map. It's called Oro Grande. And, it's all owned by the U.S. military, and it's just desert out there. But, we used to do some missions out there when I was in El Paso. But at any rate, when I was at Fort Bliss. But at any rate, where we lived in El Paso was the very first grocery store if you were traveling south from this military area. And, I walked in that grocery store one day, and what people look like when they've never been in an American grocery store before, because they just walk in and they're awestruck. So if you see somebody without a cart, or like not somebody, like dozens of people without carts, without baskets, just walking around in the grocery store looking like, oh my gosh, look at all this food here. What is going on? They were housing these people in this Oro Grande place, thousands of them, and all of them looked to me Middle Eastern, Asian, and African. So it wasn't like your typical Hispanic looking type of person, which is common there in El Paso. So you can definitely see somebody who's never been in a grocery store in America before, because they stick out like a sore thumb, right? Because they're just kind of looking around in amazement, especially if they're coming from a third world country, right? So, yes, I think there have been efforts, and this was years ago. So I think there have been efforts for years now to bring in people on the down low that they're not talking about, and it's not showing up in officially reported numbers. They're being housed by the U.S. military for who knows what purpose.
Yeah, so I would imagine that all those people that are being housed and all the entities that's doing the transporting, because it costs. So people say it's a Soros, all those people. You thought all those names. Perhaps will we find out what it was all for? And I would imagine it's all in hopes of not having Trump get a second term. But yeah, I know everyone. I'm not a pro or anti whatever. I just follow what's going on and follow the actions. And so, is this push to make sure Trump doesn't get a second term the primary objective, or is the overall big picture is the fact that they want to control the demolition of our monetary system as they allow it to reboot up out east, or is China not really a player anymore, or whatever? We'll end with that.
Yeah, that's great, because that's the great unknown. Because if it is truly a deep state coup against Trump, which I don't think it is, and we know that, my position on that. But if it is truly a deep state coup against Trump, then crashing the economy is all that they got left. Because they tried the Russian witch hunt with Russiagate, then they tried the impeachment. What's left? The only thing and they've been talking about this openly, right? The Fed has been talking about this. It's our duty to crash the economy to prevent Trump from getting reelected. Dudley said that late last year. So, if it is in fact a deep state coup, then get ready for economic collapse. If it's not a deep state coup and we still have these economic problems, then it's to bring down the monetary system. But I don't think that they're going to have the control. They think they can make it a coordinated, controlled demolition, but I do not think that they can make it a controlled demolition here.
I would agree. So my thoughts are that this is all an attempt to bring this thing down as softly as possible while knowing they can't. And so the only objective is to cause as much distraction as possible. I never anticipated using our health as a primary way of depopulating the earth in hopes of controlling the mainstream narrative as well as the shift into the new monetary world order they want to throw out there. But ultimately, I think just getting out of this month is going to be interesting, because if there's another case and another case and another case, we're going to find out exactly how serious this is. And if it's a common flu or extreme flu multiplied times 10, this is a health scare, because I can't even say the word no more, because if I say the word, I've already witnessed what happens if you say the word. And so it's a media attack. So YouTube and all those things like that, expect more as time goes on to control the narrative. So
yes,
yeah, so that's it, man. That's all we're going to do. Any last thoughts, Mr. Half Dollar, before we dial back officially?
Yeah, just the CDC is very far behind the curve on this. They've only completely tested like 217 people. There's like 293 so far that are that they're looking at, but that's it. This has been going on for weeks now, and they've only tested less than 300 people. And out of that, they've only completed testing on 217. So we could be looking at an explosion in the number of cases and in the number of states. Japan is up at Hong Kong is up at like 45 cases. And, experts like Chris Martenson are saying the death rate is 3%. So if they get to 100 cases in Hong Kong, then 3 people are going to start dying, right? So people are going to start dying outside of China. What's it going to take before it gets on the radar in the United States? Of death in the United States? I don't know. I'm asking. But that's all I got, Mike, for closing it up with my thoughts. I wish I had something rosier, but, these are the times we face.
That's what it is, man. And so we have to leave it at that. But Mr. Haddock, I appreciate you for bringing your expertise and analysis and commentation and everything else to the RTD channel, my friend. Appreciate you. And other than that, people, it's been great hanging out this afternoon, and definitely see you guys later. So Friday we're on Silver Doctors. Other than that, go try to do some difference and try to make a way of giving more people some information and insight. So I'm done for today. Be blessed, be safe, peace. Now I got to get to the button to cut this thing off.
I can't believe